Afternoon and welcome to this webinar for you who either have oral poster or poster presentations at the ISBM. We look forward to seeing all your research and data. We have invited on behalf of the ECIC, we have invited Associate Professor Randee Hunter from Ohio State University to give you some hints and tricks on how to do a good oral poster or poster pitch at your poster. Would like to remind you, of course, that we are currently accepting applications for the Early Career Investigator Committee. There's a deadline on June 19th. It's a very short application you have to send in, so I can highly recommend you to do that and become engaged in the society to support the bone system community here. But on behalf of the ECIC, would like to welcome Randee, and the screen is yours, Randee.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Matilda, and thank you to the ECIC for asking me to do this. I'm excited to meet all of you at the conference here in just a couple of weeks. As Elizabeth mentioned, I'm an associate professor at Ohio State. I'm also the chair of the Scientific Leadership Committee for ISBM, and this is my second cycle of serving with the ISBM. And when I first started, the ECIC did not exist yet. And I joined the Scientific Leadership Committee, and the ECIC came to be during my time serving. And I can just put a plug in to say that, one, serving for ISBM is incredibly rewarding, fulfilling. It's an incredible society. I've met so many amazing people. And so if you are considering getting involved in something like that, then I would highly encourage you to submit that form by the 19th to join the ECIC. I do have a few PowerPoint slides. Much of what I'm going to say today, I think maybe some common sense type of things, but then applying it to how we actually effectively communicate our science, especially within the restrictions that we have for our oral poster presentations, and then the time for just our poster presentations is sometimes a little bit tricky, especially if this is your first time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully everyone will be able to see it. Let's see here. Okay, can everyone see that in presenter mode? Oh.
Yeah, we're seeing your side of the slides.
I think it just told me screen sharing stopped. Is it still sharing?
No.
Okay. I don't know why. That's a weird error that Zoom has never given me before. Let's try this again. Why not today for a strange error? Okay.
You're on now.
How about now? Okay, it has not kicked me off yet.
Oh, no, and now it's perfect.
Okay. That was a strange glitch. Okay. So let's get started. If you have not seen the program yet, or if you're looking for it, this is the link. I think we'll probably share these slides out after the webinar. So if you have not gone to this page to look at just the general overview of the program, I encourage you to do so. There is also, I'd like to put a plug in on Saturday, July 4th, so early in the day before the meeting and the memorial lecture starts. The early career investigators are going to have a meeting from 2 to 4. I don't know the location of this. Do you know the location yet, Elizabeth or Matilda?
We know the location, but it will be added to the program.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. So if you're interested in attending, and if you are actually in London at this time, be on the lookout for that location, and all early career investigators are welcome to attend that meeting. Okay, so just some general poster information, whether you're an oral poster or only a poster presentation, you should follow these guidelines, and these should have been emailed to you as well. But just to remind you that we're using standard poster size. Portrait only, please don't turn that to landscape. So this A0 here is the goal, and our poster boards will be able to accommodate that. When you arrive at the registration table, that is where you will be assigned your poster number and location. So I don't think you will get that information beforehand, but you'll be given that information when you arrive at the registration table at the location. And unlike some of the other larger meetings like ASBMR, if anyone is used to attending those meetings, we will actually ask you to display your poster for the entirety of the meeting. So we ask that when you arrive on Saturday the 4th and register, that you hang your poster and then leave that hanging until the 7th on the last day. I realize some people's travel might, get them there a little later, or that they have to leave a little bit early, but please try to hang your poster first thing so that it can be viewed by people throughout the entirety of the meeting. And I forgot to say, if people have questions as I go along, please feel free to unmute or raise your hand or put something in the chat. Otherwise, we'll have time for questions at the end, but I'll just continue on until someone stops me. So just some general guidelines for creating an effective poster. In my lab here at Ohio State, we actually take a lot of time to teach our students how to make good posters that effectively communicate their science. Because I think one of the downfalls of poster making is that you try to put everything on there and the text gets really small and you don't use enough images and figures, and then people can't, their attention spans don't always want to stand in front of a poster and read the entire thing. So unlike a manuscript, perhaps, where you do want to get that level of detail in there, in a poster, it's really more about capturing the attention of your audience in a short time span and also a really clear and not overwhelming way. So our guidance for our students and for our young investigators is to not overload your poster with text. The more images and figures you can use, the better, particularly at a meeting like ISBM, where many of us are really interested in new and unique applications and methodologies and ways in which you're gathering data that maybe haven't been done before or have advanced the methodology in the field. We want to see those images. We want to see those pictures and those figures, more so than reading through text that might explain in a overly detailed way what you're doing. We always suggest choosing a text style for your poster as well as a text size that is easy to read for visitors. So when I'm making a poster, when our students are making a poster, we typically use PowerPoint for our posters, but we essentially put the viewing box at 100%. So if I can't see what those words say sitting at my computer when I'm at 100%, if I'm having to squint, then it's probably going to be too small for someone standing in front of your poster to be able to see that. So we typically try to use font size 32 or higher. It's a little bit variable depending on how much text we have on the poster, but that's just sort of a good guideline that we use in our lab to make our posters quite clear, and so that if there is text on there, and the amount of text on there, you can actually read it. When you're making your poster, ask yourself if you think that you have communicated the key concepts that are essentially the breakdown that we would use for a manuscript, right? Have I introduced the problem? Have I mentioned my objective very clearly? Do I have my materials and methods there? Do I have results and discussion? Those two can be combined or they can be separate. And do I have some type of conclusion with my references listed? The important part is to strike a balance, though. Unlike a manuscript where you won't be standing there in front of it, having the opportunity to explain in more detail to your audience some of the things that you might not have put in there, you will have that opportunity with your poster. So if you are outlining these categories for your poster, and you feel like you have too much text in that space for each of these, perhaps that's something that you can take out and just be the resource as you're standing at your poster. So not every single detail needs to get into the poster because you'll be there to sort of answer those questions for people. So there's a balance between our posters are going to be hanging for the entirety of the conference. So someone might encounter the poster without you standing there, you know, in a networking break and not during your poster hour. So can your science be understood without you there? However, you also want to make sure that some of those really minute details that are very important for your rigorous science, maybe those are things that you say rather than trying to cram all of that into the poster. So it's a balance. I'm going to share just really quickly one of the posters that we have made in our lab. And this was, I think this was ASBMR 2024. I will also say that, and it's not really about the science here, it's more just about to give you an idea of an outline and sort of the proportion and balance of words to figures to images here. And I will say that ISBM does not provide a poster template, so you are open to using, if your lab has a template that you follow, which this is our pretty traditional lab template for my lab, or if you find a generic template, you are welcome to use those. But we don't give you a template that you have to follow. So I just wanted to put this up here to give you sort of the idea between the amount of text versus what I'm displaying in figure or image form, rather than talking about maybe perhaps the age distribution between males and females. Here, I used a histogram to communicate those differences, or the fact that there really weren't differences in the sample. I used a figure. These data were collected from high resolution clinical CT. So I used a figure to sort of show the location along the radius, that this is how we measured the total length. This is what the cross section looked at that particular site. And so a lot of this could be described in words, but using a figure to do that, I think, is more impactful and also easier for people to understand what's happening. I also wanted to show that in my results and discussion, yes, each of these figures is referenced somewhere in the text, but I use different colors, color schemes to denote my sort of different categories of individuals for males and females. And then we had divided these into a narrow phenotype versus a wide phenotype. And just to give you an idea of really what I'm focusing on here are maximizing the size of my figures and my images, minimizing the size, but not to a level that you can't read my text, and then cutting out some of that text because I don't need it. I'm showing it in my results figures. So just an example, this is not exactly how you have to do it, but that's just an example of how we construct our posters in our lab. Sorry. Navigated and speaking, and I haven't had enough coffee yet. Here we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, it did it again. I don't know why it keeps telling me that my display is stopped. Okay. Elizabeth says we're good, and it hasn't kicked me off yet. Okay, so one of the unique things that I have seen at a few different conferences now, and I think it's maybe becoming more popular, and we actually did this for the first time at ISBM 2024, and I think it went over very well, and so we're bringing it back for this year, is that for some of our poster presentations, we will also have the ability for those presenters to give a short, that's the key, short 3-minute oral presentation of their poster. Not all of our posters were assigned oral presentation slots. So if you are unsure if you have an oral presentation slot or not, please go back to your acceptance email. And if you are still unsure, you can email Jason and he should be able to help you. But if you were assigned an oral abstract, What that means is you will get 3 minutes to basically give an elevator pitch or give a sort of preview to your poster that entices people to come to your poster to ask more questions and learn more about your awesome science. So the purpose is not to give every single detail of your science in this 3-minute presentation, but really to just kind of introduce what you're doing to the audience and then tell them, if you have more questions, come see me at my poster. And so I've created a couple of do's and don'ts for these oral presentations. So the do's, let's start with the positives. Typically, I instruct my young investigators or students who are doing this type of very short 3-minute preview of their poster to make separate PowerPoint slides, 3 to maybe 5 maximum, depending on how comfortable the person is with giving a PowerPoint presentation. You'll see on the next slide when we talk about don'ts, how that kind of fits into these do's. But 3 minutes goes by fairly quickly if you're trying to get every detail into your presentation. However, 3 minutes can be a very long time if you keep the mindset that this is a structured talk that simply introduces your poster and your science to the audience, but that it's not supposed to be everything you've done. So structuring your talk simply, trying to think maybe, okay, 1 minute approximately for each of these 3 things. Have I talked about an overview? What's the context or the problem? Why does it matter? And what is my objective? That could be 1 or maybe 2 slides. Again, this isn't a manuscript. We don't need to give a ton of background in your 3-minute sort of introduction to your poster, but we do need to contextualize your objective and your research question. So a very short, brief, succinct, what's the context or what's the problem, and what is my objective and research question? Highlights from your materials and methods. Use some of those really nice images that you're putting onto your poster to go into a materials and methods slide that you have so that you can sort of display those on a larger scale. The screens for the oral presentations will be quite large. I haven't seen the space, but I imagine. And so use sort of that ability to display some really cool images that you've generated during your data collection. And just give us the highlights of what your materials and methods are, enough so that we understand where you're going. And then finally, you should highlight your key findings. In these oral presentations, we don't need a ton of discussion. That can be done at your poster presentation when people come to you and they want to talk and have a dialogue about what you've done and what you found. But during this sort of just brief introduction to your poster, you just want to see, these are the key findings. What's the biggest thing? What's the most interesting thing? Why does it matter? And maybe a key takeaway from what you found. You can use figures and images that you have on your poster. And again, you can display them at a larger scale on the presentation slides. Make sure to speak clearly and at a moderate pace. We are asking that people present in English, but English is not everyone's first language. So speaking too quickly, particularly through scientific concepts, may lead to some misunderstandings or people not understanding what you're trying to communicate. So try not to overwhelm the audience. Try not to speak as fast as you can to get all the details in there. Speak clearly and at a moderate pace. And then I always recommend to students and young investigators that the purpose of this is to get people to come to your poster so that you can talk more about what the cool stuff that you've done and found. So end your talk with, if you'd like to learn more, come see me at poster number, whatever your poster number is. Some of the don'ts of an oral poster session, basically just the opposite of what I said. But to list it out, I do not recommend displaying your entire poster on the screen during your oral presentation. It's not very effective. People are going to go to your poster to do that. So I would make separate PowerPoint slides that have less information, more figures, and not every single detail that's in your poster. Try not to speak too quickly or rush. Again, if you go into this with the mindset that I'm introducing people to my poster and we can talk more about those details at my poster, then you're not going to have too many details and you shouldn't have to rush through what you're talking about. Do not go over 3 minutes, please, because we have a very tight schedule to keep. So please be respectful of the moderators. Please try not to go over your 3-minute time spot. And try not to use too much text in your slides, same as the advice for the poster. This can overwhelm the audience and just be counterproductive for their understanding or comprehension. A couple of tips for presenting at your poster. So whether you are an oral abstract presenter, oral poster abstract presenter, or if you're simply assigned a poster presentation time slot without your oral presentation, presenting at your poster, this is the time where you can go into a little more details. But it also very much depends on the visitors to your poster. I have realized this over many years of standing at posters myself, that it's a unique social experience, I think, to try to figure out if the person who has come to your poster would like for you to give them the entire overview and discussion and spiel of what you've done from start to finish. Or they may decide that they want to read your poster and look at your figures, and then they may interject with directed questions, which means your job is to maybe stand there and say, let me know if you have any questions, but allow them the time to read. Sometimes I find that's the most awkward social interaction at a poster, but that is what some people like. And others may start with you giving them an overview from start to finish, but start to ask you questions as you go along, particularly as you get to your materials and methods. They may start to have questions. And this is probably, I think, in my opinion, the best interaction at a poster, because that allows for conversation. It allows for you to bounce ideas off of each other. It allows for people to say, oh, I've never thought about doing it that way, or that's really interesting. I think I could do that because I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe I could integrate that into what I'm doing. Or, oh, those findings are really unique and I haven't seen that yet. So my goal when I'm doing a poster presentation at the poster is to get to this conversation piece, to use the time to try to not only convey some of the rigorous science that I've done, but allow for those questions and to talk and brainstorm about new ideas or collaborations or new ways to use the methods or the results or future work. So I guess my best advice for the presenting at your poster is to be flexible and to be open, because you are a little bit trying to figure out, you want to get your science out there, but the way that the person receives that communication may be very different across different people. So your experiences with different people at your poster may vary as widely as the number of people that come to your poster. Okay, and that's really all I had in terms of slides. And I think we have just a few minutes left for any directed questions. For myself, or for Matilda and Lisbeth have also gone through these experiences before at ISBM and different conferences. So we're happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. Or if I missed anything, Lisbeth and Matilda.
Yeah, so if you have questions, you can either unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat, and Matilda and I will forward the question to Randee. But while you're thinking, and if nobody else is unmuting, how much background do you think is important to have, both for the oral presentation, but also at your poster?
Yeah.
What should you expect that the knowledge is from other people?
In terms of the text that actually makes it onto the poster, or the amount of time that you spend in an oral presentation PowerPoint setting that up, is very minimal. But I would treat the internal knowledge that you have in the background as the same that you might want to know if you were putting together a manuscript. Because if someone comes to ask you things, particularly if maybe they've done work in that field and they want to discuss some other work that has been done related to this question, then that gives you the knowledge and the power to kind of have those types of conversations about, okay, how do my findings fit in with some of these other things? So in terms of, if you remember back to the example that I showed, I think I only had 2 bullet points of background and then my objective. And that was it for an introduction. And that's kind of the same, I think, for your oral presentation. You don't need to go into the level of detail that you would in terms of a manuscript introduction, but you also want to have that information internally so that you can have those conversations at your poster.
Thank you, Randee. I can see there's no more questions. There's still no questions in the chat. Is there anybody who wants to unmute or raise their hand?
If possible, can I have a question?
Yes, go.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just have one question. You mentioned that the oral poster presentation should be quite not different, but not the same as the poster. I shouldn't present my poster in my oral poster presentation, right? What should I include in this? Is it only figures, text? How can it be related to my poster? Like, I didn't get this point.
Yeah, it's just an abbreviated or a shorter version of your poster put onto maybe 3 or 4 PowerPoint slides. So it's not that you're presenting something different than your poster. It's just that when I have seen people just put their entire poster up on the screen during an oral abstract presentation of it, it's not very effective. Because when you're trying to put the entire poster on the screen, everything gets really small. So pull out some of the really cool, important key findings, key methods, and put them on some PowerPoint slides, just like I've done today, 3 or 5 slides. And that's what you can present. Does that make more sense?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So not just to present the poster itself. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It just pick out some of those things that are going to be like, how can I get people to want to come to my poster and talk to me about it? Some of the key things.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
So there are still none in the chat, but if
we've got
Dahlia is raising her hand. Yes.
Hi guys, this is Dahlia. I used to be a postdoc that came maybe in Denmark. I just would like to add from my personal experience with this 3 minutes for others that are trying this for the first time. So I would just, for the 3 minutes presentation, actually go for 2 minutes, 2.5 maximum. It's all about the highlights. So if you have in your abstract or in your paper, your manuscript that you're presenting a highlights, so my 3, 4, your graphical abstract could be there. And that's much easier. People would like to listen to you, and also they are more visual. So as you said, Randee, less text, even in the PowerPoint presentation. And they would like to visualize more pictures, more graphs. So just translate your words into like small figures from here and there. It could be from your poster. It could be something you're not showing. In this 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes, it's a teaser. You would like just to attract people to come to your poster. So it's kind of like you're promoting yourself, just to give them a tip of the iceberg. So I'm sure it's frustrating for the people that are trying it for the first time, that they would like to put more and more. But it's just try to hold your horses a little bit and leave all the show till people come to your poster, and you can just, let it go as much as you want. And the other thing is that also on the poster, it's good for the science communication, but I know that it's a chance also for all those young researchers, the postdocs, that will be like to promote yourself more. What are your potentials? How can you present it? So I would advise that you put your contact details at the bottom of the poster, the left, the right, maybe with a QR code, a link to your LinkedIn. With your email. There are some of these posters, like conferences, thousands of people. So maybe a small picture of you would be great. And then people will be able, again, visual, to connect who is this person, how that's how she looks like. Maybe they will start to look for you if you were not there at that poster. So yeah, so that's my small tips. Thank you.
Thank you, Dahlia. I am very sorry, but I have to run to my next meeting. But
Actually have a question from one of the ECI in the chat, asking for advice for young investigators or students that might feel a little intimidating when presenting or answering questions about their science. So can you spare 2 minutes to give your thoughts on that?
I will try to go quickly. This is a complicated question, though, and yes, the ISBM community is very open, nice. I've not seen this or experienced this at all. This will be my third ISBM meeting in London, but if this does happen, it's really about. It depends on the person that is trying to tell you these things and how they are approaching the topic. But if you feel like there's really not anything that you can have a discussion about with the person, then it's really just kind of about saying, that's a good suggestion, I can look into that. Or that is something that we've thought about doing and we didn't do in this study, but it is possible that we might expand this study to something else using perhaps those methods or those suggestions. So some people who have these types of conversations I've seen at other conferences are just not really open to, they just want to say it to you, but they don't actually want to have a conversation about it. But I don't think, and I have not seen that to be the environment or the culture at ISBM. So I would be very concerned if that happened to you. But I will say that there may be some really good opportunity to talk about, some alternative ways that you could apply data collection techniques or methods to enhance maybe your findings. And that is a little bit of why we do this type of conference and why we have an ECIC and why we focus a lot on our early career investigator, is to have those types of conversations. So that, I think that would be my kind of advice.
Thank you so much.
If I may add, we have the ECI event at the beginning, so from 2 to 4. This is also the occasion to talk about these topics in between early career investigator and give our tips and strategies to overcome the intimidation of being intimidated. Yes.
Imposter syndrome. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Randee, for taking your time.
Of course.
This has been recorded, so we will also try to put it out on LinkedIn. And you can maybe answer some questions if there's any questions in there. And otherwise, reach out to us and we'll try to help in every way we can.
Yes. And I look forward to meeting all of you. Please come find me at the meeting and I'll see you all at your posters.
Fantastic. Thank you, Randee, and see you all in London very soon.